Hey guys, welcome to Approach the Nerd. It's your girl Maria Park. And today we are reviewing RWBY Ice Queendom episode 10. I can't believe we have 2 more episodes after this left, which is exciting. I mean, things have been really progressing rather quickly in this series. The first 3 episodes were kind of like, an homage to the first volume, or at least first part of the first volume of RWBY, the original series. And then they kind of spit off on their own, starting with episode 4. And from 4 on to now, in these 6 episodes, a lot of stuff has gone down, and a lot of it has been character development, which I'm extremely, happy about. In this episode, we dealt with another aspect of Weiss's mind, which is Blake and her acceptance of her teammate and potential friend, which at this point I kind of feel like they are friends, being a Faunus and also being a former White Fang member. Now, Weiss, if you remember, right before the Nightmare Grim took over, had decided to accept it or just not think about it anymore, basically, is a good way of putting that. And she told Blake, come to us, we're your teammates. Don't go to Sun like a stranger whenever you want to talk about something. And so basically she was making the effort to try and be, like she told RWBY, the best teammate ever. So here we are in episode 10, where we know we've seen a lot of the struggles that Weiss has been having, because she has an entire area in her mind, which is represented by the house that Blake and Yang are currently in, where they're basically things that she doesn't want to deal with, doesn't want to think about, but can't ignore. So that is basically White Fang, Faunus, like all of the things to do with that. And I think it was very appropriate that Blake has shown what a badass character she is. So Blake, honestly, in the anime, as much as I love RWBY as team leader, I obviously would not have a problem with Blake being the team leader, even though I know if you're a follower of the original show, she does go back off the rails for a millisecond after the incident with Yang and Adam. But I really love how her mind works. Like, she comes up with the coolest like scenarios and plans and strategies, while the others are kind of like RWBY and Yang are kind of like, what are we gonna do? Like, Yang's like, let's just go punch, crap. And then, RWBY's kind of like, I just feel inadequate. I come up with stuff and it never works. Should I even be leader? And it's like self-doubt and brute force versus logic. And I often love it. So Blake comes up with basically the idea of fighting fire with fire. She has already assessed that there's no way they can beat negative Weiss in her own mindscape. So what she determines to do is to allow the Nightmare Grim that had infected John to basically infect her, powering her up and putting her and Weiss on an even playing field. And her logic is that her and Weiss are both opposite. They're basically mirror reflections of each other, which is true. They are literally the same person on opposite sides of a mirror. You have Weiss, who just thinks that the White Fang are just evil and they're killing everybody, and she's gone through all this trauma because of her dad, and all the stuff that the White Fang has inspired as terrorists. And then you've got Blake, who is a Faunus, who's been mistreated by humans and, joined the White Fang to try and be an activist, does realize that, basically the terrorist ways that they have adapted are not good, but at the same time, the cause is still just. So they're basically looking at each other through a mirror, but they're essentially kind of the same. And Blake's reasoning is, if I can get her to see that she doesn't want this, that she wants to come back, that she wants to understand and accept me, and I accept her, then she can wake up. And I think that is the best way of dealing with your prejudices and your trauma, is through that. Instead of them duking it out in real life, they're duking it out in the dream. Now, the dangerous part of this is if Blake isn't careful, because she is going to be essentially possessed by the same Nightmare Grim that had Jun, then she could be trapped in that dream or I guess drained till she dies. So she's essentially going to be in the same predicament that Weiss is in, and then they're going to have to wake her up, which honestly I think Weiss is going to be the one that wakes her up. If Blake gets through to her, then Weiss is going to get through to Blake, which I think is really cool, and that's going to solidify their team bond, which I like where this is going. But yeah, so she comes up with this plan. Yang is like, I don't want to do this. This is stupid. It's dangerous. I don't want to do this crap. What happens if you're infected too? This is bull crap. But, Blake pretty much is like, we don't have any other ideas. So they contact Xion, and, Osmond is there, and they basically tell her the plan. And she's like, yeah, the plan could work. It's still dangerous. And Blake's like, well, do we have any other options? Do we have like a plan A or B or C, blah, blah, blah? And Xion's like, we have nothing. And so Osmond agrees. And so you see the creepiest scene where she releases the nightmare grim and is crawling around Blake's arm and it like slides into her skin. That just grossed me out. And then you see in the dream world that she's starting to get the vines that we're seeing on Weiss and that we saw on Jun. So she's getting infected. Now Ruby does not know this plan. She's still with Jun and the little mini Weisses, the 3 mini Weisses that are left in Pyrrha. And so she's trying to figure out how to get to the grim nightmare because she's not giving up. She's going to free after the dream she had where she was talking to Weiss, where I told you very much made me feel like a suicide letter to each other. She's going to save her friend. And Yang kind of busts in through with her motorcycle. But before we get to that, I want to say I respect Yang. Yang's running around with hardly nothing on through a blizzard. It's like the girl had to have been cold. I was like, I got major props that she was able to run. That endurance is badass. And I mean, I know she has aura. I know she has a semblance, but still, that it looked like it was like negative degree 0. Like, so I have a lot of props for that and a lot of respect for that. She also ended up getting Jun's cloak, and I wanted to point that out because we've seen this cloak a lot. And I mean, I'm still like trying to figure out, and if you guys know, let me know in the comments. Does the cloak just make it so the Grim don't affect her because it's Jun's? Because that's the only thing I can think of is because it's his. Because the only reason I'm saying that is I know Blake helped her because even when she was transforming into, basically the White Fang kind of Raven lookalike, Blake, she still, the vines were coming at Yang and Yang didn't have the cloak on at that time and it handed her the cloak. So it was like, it was aiding her basically. So I'm wondering is it just because it's Jun's cloak it's basically makes you invisible to the Nightmare Grim? I'm just very curious. Like, is that her? Is that how Yang is having immunity? I guess is what I'm saying. But she ends up finding her bike and then she ends up getting to where Jen and Ruby and them are. And she's using herself as a distraction against the big golden statue Grandpa Nicholas, basically. So she's just kind of using her bike and she gets Ruby to jump on and she ends up, getting her close enough where she can just, throw her through the door where the Nightmare Grim that she needs to defeat is. Because Ruby's going to have to fight it by herself. I thought initially last week it was going to be the two of them, but no, Yang is going to distract the Golden Guard is what I'm calling him. And then we've got Blake distracting Weiss, but in reality, they are just saying stuff to each other that they actually really want to say. Like Blake is basically saying all the things she wants to say about how, the humans and especially her father, because it's really her father was the jackass. How because of his prejudice and because of other humans that use faunus in the wars and has discarded them and banished them and treated them like garbage, basically. She's basically saying, you're complacent in this, you're the daughter of this. So it's on you. And Weiss is like, wait, I didn't do any of this stuff. And it's almost like it's throwing back at Weiss the prejudice she had against Blake for blaming her for stuff that the White Fang did, even though technically Blake was a White Fang member. It's like they're basically duking it out. And what I found interesting about that is that Weiss seemed really upset that Blake was talking to her like that. It's like, this is not you, Blake. And it's like, yeah, because she's already truly separated Blake from her prejudice of what a White Fang and I guess maybe even still on some level faunus. And she said she doesn't hate all faunus, but I guess a White Fang faunus is really like. So when she said she accepted Blake, I think she actually did. So, I mean, she's getting really, really upset. You can tell she's trying not to break, like Negative Weiss is trying not to break the mold with her face, but she does not seem happy that Blake is saying all this stuff and attacking her. And she's like, well, I'm going to knock you to your senses and I'm just going to banish you and you'll never wake up again, But I mean, it's just like two friends fighting. It's very interesting. I will also point out what I loved about this episode is all of the weapons and all the things that Weiss did for them, like reversing basically the gun on Crescent Rose and making Jun's sword extremely too heavy for him to carry. All these things were beneficial. And it's like she knew this stuff was going to happen because Jun's sword is really the sword that's helping against, I guess I'm going to call Jock the I don't know, the sentient or something. I don't really know what she was going for by making him this huge, soldier like creature or whatever. But her dad, I guess, is this like overpowering jerk. So I guess it's kind of how she sees him as this towering, kind of like Avatar type person. So, but he has a really heavy sword because he's very big, and Jun having that sword can basically parry against him because he would never have been able to do that with his regular size sword. So it's like everything that she did in the dream to modify their weapons, even making Yang, her boosters a lot stronger when she was able to punch through the golden guards. I think it was his armor or his leg or something. She punched something that was coming at her, but I mean, that's something she probably would not have been able to do originally. So I thought that was very cool that she, in a way, it's almost like this played out in Weiss's mind, because, and I know RWBY made it even a comment when she was like carrying a relic that basically is Blake's relic that Yang got from Blake to basically, I guess, wake Blake up. They're also going to use coins because Xian said if they can use one coin to wake up Blake and snap her out of it, as long as she holds on to it, and then the other coin to get everyone out. So I kind of feel like in that guard, I think that having Ruby's gun reversed, she was like, is this how you really wanted me to use this? I don't know if it made it more pinpoint accurate or whatever, but she was able to shoot Whitley to get the relic back when he stole it, as soon as she entered into where the nightmare room was. So basically Schnee Manor. So I don't know. I'm very curious on what that actually means. But we were kind of left on a cliffhanger because you see, Blake and Weiss are fighting it out. You have, again, Yang is distracting everyone, Golden Guard Nicholas, and then you have Jun about to fight Daddy Schnee, big, towering avatar version Daddy Schnee, or Jacques, should I say. And then you have RWBY literally launching herself at the Nightmare Grim for like the final strike. And if this does not go off as planned, they have no other way of saving Weiss. This is what Shiana said. Her semblance is, as long as she's able to maintain her semblance, they should be able to stay in the dream for however long it lasts. But she's saying, I just need to try and do that. So it seems like it's straining her. She's running low with her semblance. So on her semblance, and her ore is probably running out. So I feel like if RWBY does not defeat this Nightmare Grim this time, Weiss is probably going to die. And so I think it is going to work because we do have 2 episodes left, and what probably is going to happen in the next episode is we're probably going to get like a point of view episode, maybe seeing maybe a flashback, maybe it'll be all Blake versus Weiss, and then RWBY will be on episode 12. I don't know. I'm very curious because I don't think they're going to put us in a predicament or where Weiss, they fail and everybody wakes up and then that's just it. Because how would they save Weiss? And Weiss obviously isn't going to be, you can't have Team RWBY without, one of the girls. So yeah, I'm very curious to see how that's going to play out. But more than likely, what I think is going to happen in the next episode is that it's going to be more focused on the battle between Weiss and Blake. They're going to work their crap out. And then they'll probably save Weiss at the end. And then maybe episode 12 is them having to wake Blake up. Because Blake is infected. So she willingly let it affect that. Like I said, Blake is one of the most badass characters in this version. I'm not saying I don't like her in RWBY, but she's a lot. Like, she's really stepped up in my mind. These are pretty much how I envisioned all of the girls from the get-go. So, and I hate to say it that way because it's not that I hate RWBY. It's just that sometimes the writing in the original show is kind of hit or miss for me. But this, like the way they act in this one is how I envision them the entire time. So I'm really curious to see what the dub track's going to do for this, knowing how, the regular voices in our heads for these characters are versus the Japanese, which I think the Japanese is doing a very good job. The Japanese track is very good. But yeah, I'm just very, very curious, like what's going to play out. Cause like, I'm really hoping that we do get to see a fleshed out, let's say Blake, dedicated episode, even though it'll only be 1 episode. Like they had like 11 episodes. Well, technically not 11. They had almost 7 episodes to save Weiss. And they only get like 1 episode to save Blake. I do also love how Team Juniper was like so willing to jump in as backup. They're like, oh, if they're tired, we'll go. And I'm like, and Shian's like, well, let's just see what happens first. And if it comes to that, and I'm like, I just love how Pyrrha, and Nora and Ren were like, we're gang ho. And I love how Nora was like, well, what if you get attacked, Ren? And Ren's like, well, I have this ability, to kind of avoid the Grim, which is so foretelling of his future power where he can shield, himself and other people. And then he also said, but if this had happened to you, I would have gone in there and done the same thing, basically what Blake did, I guess, which is also foreshadowing their future relationship. So yeah, I think that is I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, but all in all, very, very good episode. I'm very happy with how this turned out, and I'm very excited for next one. They are very good at cliffhangers. They are very good at cliffhangers. It is so annoying that this is not all released as all 12 episodes on Crunchyroll, and it's week by week. It's so annoying to me. So, but it is what it is. I mean, at least I'm getting it faster than volume 9 of the show. So that's a thing. Hi Godzilla. Will this finally end the Weiss racism storyline? Find out next time. Yeah, and I feel like the racism is not really the big thing. I feel like there is discrimination, so you're all right. I feel like it's more trauma. Her opinions are not her opinions. Her opinions are based on what her dad's opinions and how he like they don't tell you this, or they don't really say it outright, but we've seen in the series that he slapped Weiss, and we see that for her to even be able to go to Beacon, she pretty much almost had to die during her trials that her dad made her go through. So I mean, more than likely he was abusing her, and that's probably another reason why Winter got out and joined the military, because I don't think it was an isolated incident with one child. He may not have been as hard on Whitley, but I'm pretty sure he treated like girls like crap. And so I think when Weiss separated herself from that environment and it opened her mind up more, it's like, wow, these people aren't bad. Wow, maybe we were wrong in some of this with the Faunus, and that's why White Fang became what they did. She's starting to see another person's perspective, because she was so sheltered in Snee Manor. All she saw was White Fang attacking their company, and people that were close to the family dying and going to funeral after funeral, and the dad becoming more angry and aggressive towards her, which that it has to be a form of abuse, because if you really think about it, Willow, Winter, and Weiss could take her father out like that. She literally could end her father in 10 seconds, but she doesn't. She allows herself to be treated like crap. So there's something to say about a powerful person who pretty much is subjugated by somebody less powerful because of how they feel and how they've been treated. So once she got out of that mind prison caused by her father, her horizons have opened up. So I kind of feel like now she doesn't know what to do. Weiss has always had like this path, and it's like now I'm off the path. And I think like that, the statue with all of the arrows going in different directions, that is absolutely representative of how Weiss feels inside. Does not know which way is up, down, or whatever. So I think it's very interesting how they visualize stuff that's so psychological. So that's a thing. So Weiss became infected, then RWBY, now Blake. I swear Yang is going to get infected next. Probably. They probably couldn't handle Yang being infected, honestly. I don't know how they wake Yang up. I love how Blake's like, Nightmare don't normally fight each other. So we have to have a reason to fight each other, which is why it had to be Blake that did it. And Blake's like, this is really the one thing I can do. Because Yang's like, yeah, she'd ignore me. She's like, yep, pretty much. So I think the only one that could really get through to Yang, unless she already has a thing for Blake, is RWBY. So that's a thing. And how interesting with Blake that Adam, of course, was her nightmare, the one taunting her. Of course it's Adam. Adam is like that fly that just won't buzz off. So I think it's so true to the source material, even though this is not technically 100% canon. It's still canon enough where it still makes sense. It's basically like a character arc we didn't get privy to in the original series that is absolutely believable because of how the characters interact now. So yeah, just a thing. To me, this arc kind of dragged in places. I don't feel like, for me, it didn't drag. I feel like they just concentrated on one thing more than the other. But to be fair, if there was a gray area, I gotta say the original series did not spend enough time in character development. They just said stuff, and then we just took it, and then they just went. It was like, and then like here we are in season volume 5, and it's like, oh yeah, by the way, my dad did this. I'm like, shouldn't we have known this in volume 1? Or it's just stuff like that. I wish they had taken the time to flesh all of this garbage and drama out and trauma out in the first 2 arcs or 2 volumes of RWBY, and then got to the actual storyline instead of us just having these little moments of losing our mind every now and then in certain episodes. So that's just me though. But yeah, I can see for somebody coming into this might think that it's a little bit draggy, but I mean, they're doing a pretty good job for only having 12 episodes and having the first 3 kind of a recap of parts of volume 1. So I don't know. And the animation is beautiful. I love the animation for the show. And I heard this is not going to be a one-off. They're actually planning to do more of the series in this animation style, which I am here for. The only thing for me that's dragging is the fact that we still have no idea why. Well, we have theories of why. We heard that's because I said last week of the actor who passed away from colon cancer, that was supposed to play Rowan, is slowing down the dub track. But I'm just really curious because there's no announcements on when we're going to get the dub version. I'm very curious to see how our girls play out this emotional, very emotional anime, because don't get me wrong, some of them are very good at acting. I'm really curious to see how some of them sound in these particular situations in English. So it's something I'm very, very curious about. Imagine if Weiss was this cool in the real world, then in the dream she would have a pretty cool track record. Well, that's the thing. Weiss is supposed to be, but when Monteon died, I kind of feel like they dumbed down their abilities, because like when you saw the white trailer, you saw all of their trailers, they are badass. And I'm not saying they don't have moments of that, but I mean, they just seem like there are moments when RWBY just gets her butt handed to him, and it feels like her and Weiss can never win a fight unless they're with each other, and barely, or by accident. And that's not something you normally see, And I mean, if you even look at before the dream, when Weiss was like doing her trials, she was pretty badass. I just feel like, I don't know what it is. I just feel like whoever took over writing just didn't have a feel for how badass these characters were supposed to be. And so they just kind of made them a lot weaker, maybe with the thought of building them up. And, because I mean, maybe they thought, well, if we just give them all this, badass ability now, then where will they go later when they're older? I don't know. Maybe it's something like that. They wanted a natural progression to these characters. But for me, they just dumbed them down. It's like Team RWBY became really effing weak in points. And it's just so weird that they would get their asses handed to them. It's just weird. So, yeah, it's a thing. It is what it is. But I mean, I guess you can either be happy with the OG series, this series, or none of it. So I guess there's not really a gray area in there on that either. But I don't know. I don't know, guys. I have a cold. How many times does she want to fight solo? That's a good question. Excuse me, guys. I've been suppressing this for a while. Not working. But I think, I'm trying to remember, did Weiss... Who did she fight? Okay, so she fought against... No. Mm-mm. No, she didn't win against him either. Hold on. I'm really thinking here. You got me really stumped. Hold on. Who did she fight against in the OG series? Outside of the white trailer. Because I know that they fought, like her and RWBY would fight together a lot, but they would sometimes fight different people. Yeah, I don't really remember her fighting anyone that was actually completely one-on-one without the help of RWBY or Yang or somebody else. Yeah, you might be right. But then again, that just kind of goes to show that that's a problem. I mean, they all should be able to do that, Like with Yang and Adam, I get that scene, that scenario had to happen, but it was just the quickness of how it happened. I've always felt that even though Adam's semblance is kind of like hers, it should have been more of a fight. I feel like there should have been more of a fight. So there's always going to be that. And just like with Blake, her ability to make clones of herself, which is something we still haven't seen her do in this version. That's great and all, but like, she always seems to be the best fighter. And she always seems to like she's a cat. She always lands on her feet, basically. I guess that's what we're going for. But it's like she doesn't seem to actually go down as fast as the other ones do, even though technically their semblances are a little bit more powerful than hers. So I don't know. And as for heck, has any of Team RWBY won on one-on-one fight? Yang used to fight. She fought people in the bar that time. I think it was 2 or 3 guys in the bar. Technically RWBY did too, which is how she got recruited. I mean, she didn't get Roman, but like she did fight those guys and successfully. I don't know. I kind of feel like they did most of the work before they became Team RWBY. so, so yeah, I think all of their successes were before they became a team. That's just my opinion. I don't know. But you do bring up an interesting point, and it kind of, it's basically kind of what I was saying. I kind of feel like they should have been more badass in the TV show. And you never know. You never know. Who asked for a Justice League RWBY movie crossover again? I'm curious. I am very curious to see how this plays off. I mean, I love the Justice League and I love RWBY. And I've read the first volume on the DC Comics, so you never know. It was a little strange, especially Clark Kent. But, the whole Clark Kent ending up in Pat's situation. But, I'm here for it. I want to see what they can bring to this. I mean, trust me, there have been stranger crossovers in the DC universe. So it may be okay. I don't know. I'm going to give it a chance. I try to give everything a chance. I feel like, it can only be good or bad. I can either like it or hate it. Either way, I'll talk about it. So it is what it is. But I am still very excited for Volume 9, and I am very excited for, all of the RWBY projects that are coming out. Whether they become worth being excited about, time will tell. I don't know. But for now, I'm loving it, and I am really loving Ice Queendom. So I am glad that there are the rumors about them continuing this as an anime and having more of the series itself, done, or maybe even go off and do your own thing. I would love for them to go off and do their own thing, write their own plots. You could keep the same villains and just do your own. So I would love to see a different version. I like basically an alternate Earth or multiverse version of RWBY. I think that would be badass. I would love to see it. And then some people might actually like it better than the volumes, which I think would be really funny. But anyway, like I said, RWBY has always been eccentric. You either love it or you hate it. You either think it's an anime or you think it's a webtoon. I mean, it is what it is. But for this intents and purposes of this review, I really did love episode 10. I am very excited for 11 and 12. Sad though that we only have 2 episodes left. Really eager to see what else is going to happen in the RWBY universe, and also kind of excited for Volume 9 because it is a little bit weirder and we haven't had what's happening now before, so or what's coming up. Kind of irritated it's not coming out till next year, but it is what it is. COVID kind of messed up a lot of stuff. So. But that is my opinion, guys. I want to know what you guys think about the episode, where you think the series is going, and spoilers, what you're looking forward to in RWBY. So leave me a comment below and let me know. Also, check out the Stargirl review I'm doing for Season 3, Episode 1. That's happening at 5:30 today, Central Standard Time. We have some stuff to talk about with Stargirl. A lot to talk about with Stargirl. I actually really immensely enjoyed that episode, but I got stuff to nitpick about. So we're going to talk about Stargirl today at 5:30. Now, you don't got to go home, guys, but you can't stay here. So if it is day for you, you guys have a good day. If it is night for you, have a very good night. And I will see you in my next review and video.